Um, now let's get to where he started becoming um uh, involved with these orders. Um, in the year I believe it was 1840, he joined a Masonic order. I believe at this point there's 800 of them, with different names, but one of the bigger ones has been around for the longest, which there's pretty much one in every medium-sized town or city. The Order of the Odd Fellows, he joined in 1840, and I'm sorry, he achieved pretty high status in there. Then I think it was like 1854, he joined the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Masonry, and he was extremely active, and he was um, uh, awarded um, uh, the honorary 33rd degree, the Grand Inspector General. I believe I believe he particularly had a name that was a little bit longer. I'll put it on the video. Um, now, um, let's talk about what he believed in. He wrote, well, actually, first, let's talk a little more about him. While all these people on here that I speak of are horrible, horrible people that's done so much, does terror and evil, bloodshed, wickedness, racism, hatred, sexual immorality, betrayal into the world. You do have to give people credit when they are intelligent. As that somebody of very high intelligence myself, I believe in admitting when someone else is obviously very intelligent. The question is one of three: if they got the intelligence gifted to them by the Lord Yahushua, Jesus Christ, if they had it gifted to them by Lucifer, or if they were born that way. Um, Albert Pike apparently could speak 16 ancient languages, and if he could speak that many ancient languages, he could probably speak all of. I would assume that he could probably speak all or most of the standard ones. So he wrote what is considered nowadays, they call it, people that actually read it, because most Masons won't pick up one book in their library. Um, what's considered the Masonic Bible, Morals and Dogma. Um, uh, it is a unbelievably sophisticated book. Um, I'm not sure if it was automatically wrote. Nowadays, I think anybody can buy a copy. It's not like how it used to be. Um, uh, since all stuff has got out, I kind of think they've just kind of hung it up on trying to keep it secret and just ignoring it. Um, I believe it's 700 or some pages. It's a very big book. I'm not sure if it was automatically wrote or not. It's not, but it's really not a good idea to have these type of books in your home. That's why I say if you feel compelled to research one of these books, read the minimum that you can and find online. Or if you cannot do that, try to find it at a library and go look at it in person and leave. But do not bring this stuff in your house, because then you're giving whatever is possessed to it permission to haunt you, or attempt to haunt you, or bring harm to your loved ones that might not have the same protection needed. So, there's a lot of very controversial things that you can talk about and pick out from this book, but the most important one is page 321, when he instructs to tell the 30th, the 31st, and 32nd degrees that indeed Lucifer is God. He then he talks about how the Luciferian doctrine must be taught. Talks about how it needs to be preserved. Just goes on and on about it, and then the there's really not much of an argument that Freemasons can actually give without just sounding like they're just trying to argue of being desperate, but they'll try to read a little bit further after that and then talk about how he's talking about Yahweh after that. And okay, yes, he is speaking about Yahweh in that same page. So the only argument that could be met that's worth talking about is you could try to say, and I've heard people try to say this. People are trying to say that he was Zoroastrian, which it is an older Persian religion where somebody believes that they believe in different gods than Lucifer and Yahweh. I'll post the ones that they typically worship, but they worship two deities. One that they believe to be representing good and light, and then one that they worship that they believe represents darkness and evil. But even if he was Zoroastrian, which he was not, it's clear that he only had praise for Lucifer, which only praising one is already going against the tradition of Zoroastrianism. So he was Luciferian, and I'm gonna pull up the picture that he has on his one of the pictures I'm seeing down, and there's a really weird necklace that he has on. And what this necklace is based off Kabbalah, and it's based off the tree of life in the Kabbalah, and while the tree of life sounds like something positive, it's absolutely not. The tree of life is an unbelievably dangerous thing to get into. There's something even worse than that. The backside of the tree of life, which is typically called the Cleafalt, the tree of death. But I'm not going to get into that right now. But because he was a Kabbalist as well, so he would obviously be familiar with the tree of life. Now we're going to go look at a picture of the ultimate evil himself, the great beast, Megatherion. The reason why we're in this position we are today. We're going to look at a picture of him, and I believe this is the one where he's in his Masonic regalia, because we have to realize that rather they'll admit it or not, even though he came later, Crowley was surely the most celebrated Mason of all time. Rather, he officially went through all the degrees or not. It doesn't matter. He was honorarily let in. There's proof. There's pictures of him in a Masonic lodge. I'm not gonna put my hands together, but of him putting up the hex. But anyways, if you zoom in on this photo, you'll see that he's wearing the same necklace. So what does that tell you about Albert Pike? And back then, it's not like these things got mass produced. I want to doubt if Crowley got gifted Albert Pike's necklace. And see, in Masonry, they're very obsessed with building with Solomon. Like spiritually, they believe that they're rebuilding the temple, and they've shown interest in rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem for the third time, which is Bible prophecy. Um, and also it's worth noting that in Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike's book, for all the Blue Lodge people, he's pretty much making fun of them. He's admitting that they're learning nothing but lies. Because he's told to continue lying to them. What else did I talk about in Moral and Dharma? He talks about the how the pentagram. Well, he calls it the blazing star. In the lodge, because he openly wanted them all in there. And there's been a rumor around that's been going around for close to I guess 200 years now, that well, because in one of the apocryphal texts of the Bible, which I fully believe are canonical. I believe in the 88 books in the Ethiopian Bible, and I believe in the ones that also did not make it in that. If you read it, you can tell they obviously do tell the whole story. But anyways, King Solomon had a ring to where he could control demons, and there's always been a rumor that Albert Pike had a bracelet that could control demons. And in Washington D.C., about 13 blocks down from the White House, which is an important number to them. You have the house of the House of the Temple, I believe it's called. Yeah, House of the Temple, or something close to that. Where he is buried. I believe there's one other person buried there. But they built that place specifically for him to be buried. They have a whole room of all of his regalia. The whole place is pretty much to honor. Well, it's to honor Masonry in general, but there's a very large amount of his stuff, and I haven't personally been in there. I somewhat feel directed to go. I feel like there's something there that I might be able to learn from my research. If I feel guided by the Spirit of the Lord, then eventually then I will end up in there one way or another. And if you talk to a Mason that's in the Scottish Rite, and you have anything, they'll seem nice to you when you first start talking to them. But if you have anything negative to say about Albert Pike, bam, you hit the switch. personality completely changed, and that's because he's looked at as pretty much a demigod. You might as well say that Albert Pike has been deified. Um, in a lot of the Scottish Rite lodges, which there's thousands of across the country. They have giant busts of Albert Pike's um head that they spend thousands and thousands and thousands on. Because they pretty much view him as a demigod, and that's who made Mason popular again. Thankfully, it's down about 90% since its peak. Where about 4% of men were Masons, but this man brought so much evil onto the land of America, and his influence spread further. And what specifically is his crime against God? His crime against God was making Masonry popular again, because that made so many men deny Jesus Christ. Because even in the first degree, if you claim you're a Christian, you go into that lodge and you go through that ritual, whether you realize it or not, you are denying your Savior Jesus Christ, God incarnate, that died for you on the cross and rose again on the third day. Because how are you denying you? Well, you're denying him and you're breaking a commandment. You're denying him because while they blindfold you and you knock on the door and they say, "What do you seek?" and let you say light. Then I think during the ritual you say light again. Then you take the blindfold off and you have daggers all over at your throat. You're asking for light. You're asking for light when if you're saved, you're supposed to have the light of Christ. Why are you begging people that are in league with the army of Lucifer for light? And also, we're told in the Bible to swear no oaths. And Albert Pike wrote to Scottish Rite the first 32 degrees, the rituals for degrees 1 to 32 in the Scottish Rite, and in each degree you swear a oath. And eventually I'll make a separate video about all the horrible oaths you swear, but we're told in the Bible multiple times to swear no oath. Jesus pretty much said to keep our yes is yes and our no's no's. And I'm gonna end it here. This is probably the longest one that I've done, because there's a lot to say about Albert Pike, and I know sometimes I get off track because in general I'm a long-winded person when it comes to talking, but I feel like it works out because there's a lot of side stuff that I talk about that someone might learn something else that um helps them as well, because all of this stuff is things that we should be aware about as long as we're living in our body, which is our vessel, until the day that me and anyone that's born again watching this gets called home to the Lord. Have a good rest of the night.